Okay, so let's dive into the source material we have today. It's called Quiet Reflections, Finding Joy in Solitude.
Right, and it's got a really interesting take on, well, solitude. It's not about hiding away, is it?
No, exactly. It's more about exploring how finding presence and peace within ourselves through quiet, well, how transformative that can actually be, according to this text.
Yeah, and what I find interesting is that it sounds simple, finding joy in solitude, but the source actually gives these like specific ways in, almost counterintuitive methods.
So our mission here for you listening is to unpack those methods and maybe uncover some of the, surprising joys it suggests you can find. We've curated this specifically from the text.
Okay, so it definitely goes beyond just telling you to be quiet. It lays out these sort of
It's
invitations.
like what? What's one of the key things?
Well, one big one is the mindful walk, but it frames it as becoming an intentional pedestrian.
An intentional pedestrian. Okay, what does that mean practically?
It means leaving the distractions behind. So yeah, no music, no podcast. Sorry, folks.
Right. Okay.
But instead, really focusing on your senses, using that sensory input to kind of anchor yourself in the moment.
So it's less about clearing your mind and more about filling it with what's actually happening.
Exactly. The feel of the air, the sound your feet make, the light,
Right.
simple things. The text calls it a way to re-enter the physical world.
That makes you think, doesn't it? How often are we really in our surroundings when we're walking?
Totally. The source really pushes back on just using walks for like getting somewhere or ticking off an exercise box.
It's the noticing itself that's the practice.
Yes. That sensory engagement, it argues, is a direct way out of all that mental chatter,
Hmm.
stuff that causes so much unrest.
Okay, interesting. And what else? It builds on that idea of creating space, right?
It does. It talks about deliberately embracing what it calls the undisturbed pause.
The undisturbed pause, not just downtime then.
No, it's more active than that, in a way. It's consciously deciding not to fill those empty moments.
So when there's silence, instead of reaching for the phone or turning something on.
You just stop. You let the space be there. There's a lovely line in the source about offering silence the chance to speak first.
I like that. Offering silence the chance to speak first. Why is that pause so important, according to the text?
Well, the idea seems to be that we're constantly interrupting some kind of inner dialogue, or maybe intuition. Things that only really surface when it's still.
So it connects back to that idea of dismantling the habit of always needing external input.
Yeah, exactly. To cultivate being more receptive internally, the source suggests that, real personal insights are often waiting right there in those moments we usually just paper over.
And it also talks about reflection during quiet time, but maybe differently.
Right, not just standard journaling necessarily. It suggests using the stillness to hold specific, kind of open-ended questions.
Like examples it gives.
Things like, what energy am I carrying today that isn't mine? Or where did I feel most authentically myself recently? Questions like that.
Okay. And the point isn't to find an immediate answer.
No, not really. It's more about allowing the question to just sit there, to
Well,
resonate. The text frames it like exploring different rooms inside yourself quietly.
so those questions turn quiet time into a kind of deep listening to yourself.
Precisely. The argument is, without all the external noise and with these gentle prompts, you start to hear what you actually think and feel, separate from, what everyone else expects.
It's active work, but quiet work, like excavation.
Yeah, that's a good word for it.
Yeah.
And the payoff, what does the source say happens if you practice this kind of intentional solitude?
It lists what it calls the echoes of quiet joy, which sounds quite poetic.
It does. And it's more than just relaxing. It talks about cultivating an inner calm, like a really solid foundation inside you, feeling less thrown around by things because your center is shifted.
Yeah, and it mentions emotional clarity too, like really understanding your own feelings, not just absorbing them from elsewhere,
And that clarity, the source suggests, leads to what it calls authentic self-connection.
which isn't just being okay with being alone.
No, it's more like genuinely becoming good company for yourself, finding yourself welcome.
That's a powerful idea.
And interestingly, it also suggests you gain this profound appreciation for life's simplicity.
How so?
Because the internal clutter is cleared away, you actually notice and feel joy in basic sensations, small moments. Things you might otherwise overlook become really potent.
It completely reframes solitude then. It's not about absence or loneliness.
Not at all. It's about cultivating a deliberate, chosen presence, being with yourself intentionally.
Yeah, the source has that really striking line near the end. When you sit quietly with yourself, you don't disappear, you become more visible to your own heart.
That's the one. And it suggests that visibility is where a resilient kind of joy comes from.
It really paints this picture of finding a sort of sanctuary within yourself through stillness, through silence.
hmm That quiet joy waiting in the space you make for it.
So, if we circle back, the core message from Quiet Reflections seems to be that solitude, when practiced intentionally, like being that intentional pedestrian or embracing the undisturbed pause or using quiet for gentle inquiry, isn't empty.
Right. It's fertile ground, a place for self-discovery, for finding that inner peace.
And the potential results, the source highlights that inner calm, the emotional clarity, authentic self connection, appreciating simplicity. Those are the specific things it suggests can grow there.
Remembering that key idea, becoming more visible to your own heart, really shifts it, doesn't it? From something maybe daunting to something potentially really valuable.
Absolutely. So, the final thought for you listening, building on this source. If profound self visibility and a unique kind of quiet joy might be waiting in stillness, well, what might be waiting for you when you intentionally carve out just a little space for that quiet presence with yourself?